Hey guys, Island Homesteader here. Today I want to talk to you about kombucha. And if you're not drinking kombucha, you probably should be. If you don't know what kombucha is a fermented tea that is sometimes flavored with fruit and different flavors. But in its essence, all it is fermented black tea. It's sweet tea that's been fermented, and you need to make sure that you use a black tea or a green tea. That's fine, but none of the flavored teas work very well, especially the ones that are flavored with an oil of any kind. It's just better just to stick with black tea or green tea. But anyway, if you go to the store to buy kombucha, a bottle of it's going to cost you around $3. Kombucha is really, really good for you. It's loaded with probiotics. That's the reason that most people drink it, is for the probiotics. It's really, really good for your gut. And there's just some other enzymes, natural enzymes and stuff in there that is just super, super healthy for you. It's a fantastic drink. But like I said, if you go to the store and buy it, it's expensive. And the ones in the store, if you've ever tried kombucha from the store and didn't like it, but really wanted to get the health benefits of kombucha, if you make it at home, it is nothing like the store. It's like anything else. Homemade's always better. And kombucha is the same. And for what it'll cost you to buy a bottle of kombucha, you can make a whole gallon for less than that. Kombucha is really simple. It's really just a couple of ingredients. It's a sweet black tea. You make enough for a gallon. And it's a cup of sugar in a gallon. And it's best, this is kind of counterintuitive, but it's best to use plain old white sugar. The raw sugars and some of the organic sugars, they will create an off taste and an off flavor in your kombucha. It's a sulfurish flavor and smell. But the plain old white sugars had everything pretty much removed from the sugar, and you're just down to the sugar, the sucrose part of the sugar. And that's all the tea needs. So it's sweet. It's a sweetened tea, just a brewed black tea that's sweetened with a cup of sugar for a gallon of kombucha, and then water to fill it up. And then the only other thing you need is what's called a SCOBY, and that's a symbiotic colony of bacteria and yeast. And that's the most difficult part of making a kombucha. If you don't know somebody that makes kombucha on their own, you can buy a SCOBY online. Just look up SCOBY, SCOBY. Amazon has them. There's plenty of places online where you can get them, and you can get all the supplies. And some people will make this really difficult with temperatures and everything else, but it's so simple. If you can brew a pot of tea, you can make kombucha. Like I said, the SCOBY is the most difficult part. So let me just show you the different parts of it, and I'll put one together, and we'll let it brew for 10 days to 14 days, depending on how strong you like it. And what it does is it needs the sugar in there, because that SCOBY, like I said, it's yeast and bacteria. So the first thing that happens is the yeast converts the sugars in the tea to alcohol, and then the bacteria eats the alcohol. And that's what creates the probiotics and the natural enzymes and stuff like that. So you have to let it sit in there long enough to do its job. And depending on your flavor or your taste buds, the way you like it, you can leave it set longer or you can leave it set shorter. I usually do around 10 days. If my wife's going to drink it, it's still got a little bit of sweetness to it at 10 days, and that's all depending on room temperature and stuff. But it's still got a little bit of sweetness to it at 10 days. It hasn't gotten really tangy yet. If you leave it, the longer you leave it, the tangier it'll get. It get more of like a vinegar flavor, and some people don't like that. So anyway, let me show you how to put one together, how simple it is, and we'll get this thing going and get it brewing. So all you'll need is a gallon container. I like glass. I would not use plastic, and I don't even think I'd use metal. So just a gallon container. Again, you can get these gallon, you can use a pickle jar, cleaned out really well. You can buy a gallon glass container on Amazon or whatever. Make sure it's impeccably clean, because we don't want to have any other bacteria or mold get in it. So this has been scrubbed really well with hot soap and water, rinsed really well. And then I put white vinegar on the inside and slosh white vinegar all around, roll this around and get the white vinegar all over the inside. You also want to make sure your hands are really, really clean. and I'll wash them good with hot soap and water, and then I'll vinegar my hands as well. So you'll need something to put it in. Okay, you'll need something to cover it with, not a solid top because it puts off carbon dioxide and it needs to breathe. So I just cover it with a natural unbleached coffee filter, and usually put a rubber band around it, but I can't find a rubber band, so I'm going to use some zip ties to cover it up. So anyway, so gallon container, and all you need to do is take your tea, and again, remember this is sweetened black tea, a cup of white sugar, and this needs to be room temperature, not hot, because the hot will kill the SCOBY. That's a living colony of stuff. So we put our tea in there, and now we need to fill this up with water. You can use distilled water, well water, or filtered, dechlorinated city water. We're on city water here, and I run it through my Berkey filter to get all the chlorine out. So we're going to fill this pretty close to the top. We're going to come up to about here with it, and then save room to put the SCOBY on top. Okay, the other thing you need is a cup of the liquid that the SCOBY sets in, and this is old batches of kombucha is what that is. So we're going to clean out a stainless steel measuring cup. It's clean. I'm just going to rinse some vinegar around in it, slop some vinegar around, and I'm also going to get the vinegar on my hands before I take the SCOBY out. So vinegar your hands really well. Give this a mix. So far all you've done is you've made a gallon of tea, a gallon of sweet tea. You can put some ice in a glass and drink this, and you'd have not quite really sweet southern iced tea because it's only got a cup of sugar in a gallon. I know some people that put 2. But what you've got now is a gallon of sweet tea. So we're going to get the SCOBY out, and the SCOBY just lives in this container until you're ready to use it. And when you open it, it smells like vinegar. This is a SCOBY that's been used quite a bit. So you can just get it out. And it's kind of uncomfortable at first because of just what this thing looks like. It's kind of a fleshy, just a nasty kind of glob. It'll grow these different layers. When you brew a new batch, each time you make a batch, it grows a new layer, and it'll get thicker and thicker and thicker. The thing you want to look for is make sure there's no mold. There isn't. Mine's kind of got a reddish color because I used to put some hibiscus in my kombucha when I made it, but you really can't taste it. So you take this SCOBY, or a mother, some people will call it a mother, and it just sits right on top of your liquid. And now you take a cup of the old kombucha juice. This would be kind of like a starter for the ferment. So a cup of that. And that's it. Now you'll just let this sit out of the way. You want to set it in a place where it doesn't get shook up much. You don't need to stir it or anything while it's brewing. You'll just set it in a place where it's warm, out of the way. I usually set mine up on top of the refrigerator. And you'll just let it sit. I'll do that afterwards. You just let this sit, like I said, for 10 days, 14 days. And about 10 days, you can take the top off and just get you a little spoon and just taste it, see what you think. It may be just like you like it at 10 days, or it may need to go a little bit further. And then, after that 10 or 14 days, all I do is you take that SCOBY out, put it back in the jar that you're saving it in, with a cup of the fresh kombucha you made. Put that in a jar, and that's it. You're ready to go. You can then do a second ferment where you flavor it with fruit, and I'll show you that in a couple of weeks when this is done, in 10 days or so when this is done. So that's all there is to kombucha. It's that simple. A gallon of sweet tea and a SCOBY. Wait 10 days, 14 days, and you have kombucha. So if you like kombucha, if you buy kombucha at the store, I really encourage you to seek out a SCOBY. Maybe you know somebody that makes kombucha. These things, like I said, they get thicker and thicker as you go. And you can actually pull them apart in different layers and save them. I've got some saved up in a jar, a couple extra just in case something happens to this one. I've always got a couple other ones ready to go. But that's all there is to making kombucha. So I encourage you to try it yourself. If you, like I said, if you already drink kombucha, I encourage you to make it yourself. It's so much cheaper and it is so easy. And if you're not drinking kombucha, I encourage you to try. Find a friend that makes it, ask for a sample, or you can buy a bottle of it in the store and see what you think. Okay? So that's all there is, friends, to making kombucha yourself at home. Thanks for watching, guys. God bless.